startup company to grow, it's often assumed the founder or CEO needs to find an investor and raise sometimes substantial funds. But at what cost to the company? And is there another way? Well, one of my guests, Sarah Perry, says yes, there is another way, and has written a book on it called Brave Bootstrapping: How to Grow a Global Tech Business Without VCs. My other guest, Rudi Bublitz, argues there are real benefits to fundraising. He's also co-founder of the Flying Kiwi Angel Investor Group. Thanks very much for coming in. Sarah, this title, your book here, Brave Bootstrapping, what do you mean by bootstrapping?
Not fundraising, so organically growing a business based on customer revenues. So the more money you make, the more money you reinvest in the business. So it's kind of growing
as in
from revenue.
Pull up your bootstraps, it's going to get tough.
Yeah, pretty much. Lots of DIY.
Because, I mean, you experienced this yourself through your business, Snapcoms. I mean, how tough was it?
What, in terms of bootstrapping or fundraising?
Bootstrapping.
Bootstrapping. I think it's a matter of attitude, really. If you want to go really fast with a breaking new technology, then it's not a bootstrapping model. But for us, we were selling into enterprise, and we were selling a fairly high value product, and it was something that we could grow more slowly and fund as we made sales.
There must have been times when you thought, if we bring external funding in, this is going to make this a lot easier for us.
Absolutely. But the thing was, we only had 3 of us, and 2 of us were working other jobs, and it would have taken too much time to even package the company up to pitch to investors. So it was actually easier to go out and sell to customers to win more deals for us. But we were working out of our rumpus room, and everything was DIY.
So you just, and that's an interesting point to make, because the investment you have to make in order to raise external funds isn't just a case of putting your hand up and hoping someone sees you waving.
Absolutely not, no. And you kind of have to win customers anyway in order to prove you've got a business model. So, I think early stage entrepreneurs might miss that. They get an idea and I think, right, I'm going to go pitch this idea. But actually, I don't know, Rudi could probably comment on this, but I don't think it works like that.
Yeah, Rudi, tell us about that, because, I mean, what Sarah's saying makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't just invest in an idea. What we like to see is some form of business validation, something that we can examine to then see what our money will do to accelerate that business. When you just have an idea, you just can't tell what that's going to be.
Which is why a company or a startup has to present such a good business case before you're ever going to take a note.
Yeah, I mean, we would expect a company to have bootstrapped to a level that they have got some proof that they can say, look, here's what we've got. We have seen that when we do these things, our customers love it. They buy this product at this rate, in this way. And so $500,000 will do this to our business and grow us much faster than we could organically.
I mean, because there's always going to be a level of risk, of course, but you want to have it as a quantified risk, don't you? So what are the advantages of raising funds, coming to someone like yourself and raising funds through you guys?
Well, one clear advantage is speed. Because if you're having to wait for your revenue to generate enough profit that you can then reinvest, it can be a slow growth. And the market and the competition, if they're better funded, may just overrun you, even though you may have the better model and the better business. So that's probably one of the key points. The other thing is you also bringing in people that have business experience, investors that are aligned. They want a positive outcome for the investment, and so their advice, their connections can be very, very helpful.
That's an interesting point, Sarah, isn't it? I mean, you guys were obviously confident that you could grow the business, just the 3 of you, but for a lot of people who might say, I want to take the bootstrapping approach because I want to maintain, retain ownership and full control, they might be missing out on something Rudi says, I imagine would be much more commonplace now, where you're bringing external funds in because of the people coming with it.
Yeah, I would dispute that a little bit. I think in New Zealand we're really lucky because there's people help each other out, and I've along the way I've had so many people advise me or give me the benefit of their experience, and I think only you know your business, and I think Rudi himself would admit that sometimes experience goes out of date quickly. So current experience isn't necessarily. Or current experience is better than potentially an angel or a VC who hasn't been doing it for several years. But, it is horses for courses. So, and I also would dispute the fact that you need to achieve fast growth. It depends on the business. If you're in a hot new tech area where you want to dominate a market, then absolutely go for it. But you've got to be really aware of the level of risk involved with that type of business. There's lots of businesses that provide sustainable value, that don't want an exit, that evolve as they grow. They just keep watching the market, watching the competition, and they continue to provide value for their customers.
Are we in too much of a rush? Are too many startups and entrepreneurs in too much of a rush, maybe so they can actually release the bootstraps slightly and relax?
I believe so, and I think it brings a different stress when you have outside investors. So for us, we still have very light board meetings. It's just to choose shareholders. It's more operational. We run the strategy through the management team, whereas when you have outside investors, you have much more compliance that you have to meet and communication overhead. And investors need to feel comfortable that you're running the business in the way that they want to grow, and they also want to see profits and an exit. Whereas lots of bootstrap companies don't ever want to exit. They like what they do, they enjoy their customers, and they might have a succession plan for the CEO or the founders, but they want the business to continue running. And some of the biggest businesses, in the world today are started out as bootstrapped and are family owned. So, we get carried away with all the sexy Silicon Valley stuff, but I think we need to kind of get back to basics sometimes.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, isn't it, Rudi? So if you look at a company who is wanting to get you involved, is that one of the first things you say? Have you guys got an exit strategy? Have we got an endpoint where, because then you can start realising your investment?
Right. I mean, we as angel investors, we're looking for an exit, a sale to usually a corporate that can take advantage of this new product that's been developed in probably something like 5 years. So we're looking for founders that are aligned with that. They're also aiming to do that. They're probably developing a sort of a niche product that's never going to be big enough to build a business that can IPO and become really big, but it's going to be substantial to achieve an exit of 50 million, 100 million, and make it attractive for investors and founders.
How much does it concern you that you might have a person or a couple or a small group who have worked extremely hard? You come in with the funding and they immediately say, well, we can relax now and start paying ourselves. They can almost get complacent.
No, generally we will want to keep the salary so that they're still motivated to work to an exit, to get their return at that point, because that's the point at which we get our return. So we would like to be aligned with them, sit at the same side of the table. Saying that, I mean, they need to live, they need to earn a reasonable salary, but you wouldn't expect them to earn a market salary and on top of that also have the benefit of substantial shareholding that they benefit from on exit.
And suddenly work 4 days a week and the rest of it. You still need to see them driving their company.
Well, we don't want to burn them out because we rely on them to make it work. So it is very important for us that they do that safely and sound.
Sarah, there are ways. I mean, people who are going to take the bootstrapping approach are still going to need funds. So there are ways of doing this whilst retaining complete control.
Yes, definitely. You can charge customers for a prototype development, for proof of concepts. You can work 2 jobs. You can charge for services. You can write a book. There's lots of things you can do. You need to just get creative. We had people working out of our rumpus room to save on office costs, and we gave a room to someone who worked for free in exchange for rent. So we made our spare room rentable. So it just depends how scrappy you're willing to get. You can also, there's government funding available for some companies, depending on, but that again comes with an overhead of time and management. So that there's also
accountability again
absolutely,
comes into it.
But probably less than a shareholder.
Yeah.
So it's not quite as deeply managed, I would say. So the other comment I wanted to pick up on that you made a moment ago was early on we were asked, are we a lifestyle business or a growth company? And I remember feeling a bit annoyed by that question, because this is many years ago, because I thought, well, you can be both. So you might grow slightly slower, but we had young children at home at the time, and we wanted to be able to work part-time around their needs. And I'm still looking at new business models for companies that have employees that work part-time and they grow a really good business. So it doesn't always have to be this go hard mentality, I think. I think, again, it's people have got caught up in that whole crushing it mentality, and it's like, no, hang on a minute, let's just be human and have lives in this process too. So
it's a different approach from a lot of the companies who you'll meet.
Yeah, but I think the term lifestyle business is also used in general to just mean it is something that will generate a nice, sound business that will pay everybody a good salary that's involved in the business, but not leave extra growth and potential for an investor to get a return. So there's nothing wrong with a lifestyle business. It doesn't mean that the people in the lifestyle business, that's so termed, have it easy and don't work hard.
Having it easy whilst looking after the 4 children at the same time.
But I think you can still grow.
Yeah.
So,
Final question. A lot of criticism also, particularly when overseas investors come to New Zealand and they look at how much potential companies have potentially diluted themselves through investment. How much of a concern is that by both of you, Rudi?
It is a risk. We're very aware of that. So when we invest, we don't look to make our gain by making our investment at a low price to maximize our shareholding, but rather to work with the founders to maximize the size of the business on exit. That's our focus. I think in general in New Zealand, pricing tends to be lower than internationally, and there's a lot of good reasons, because the same kind of business that you might have in New Zealand in Silicon Valley would simply be worth a lot more because you're connected to a different market. It is very different. But we've seen a number of companies that when they transition to the US, there will be some adjustment and the founders will be granted extra shares to remedy the situation if they've been diluted too much. And that's, again, in the best interest of the company. It's in the best interest of us as shareholders and as investors.
And you'd argue bootstrapping is the way to avoid dilution.
Yes, and also I think it's also just adopting an innovative mindset and not following a playbook, because it's not just about exit to an overseas company. The kind of best practice mentality is if you want to start to the US, you have to move to the US, which is, I see happening a lot. But we've maintained all of our development and most of our core business in New Zealand, and we sell remotely, and we've done that from day one. And 99.5% of our company is offshore in terms of sales. So, the technology's there. We don't always have to be on the ground. You need to be in market regularly to understand the market, but you don't need to follow the playbook if you must go offshore. And I think, yes, I agree. If you sell offshore to a foreign company, then you're losing that money offshore. You're losing the company to an offshore buyer. But however, the founders and the people who've worked in the business often find themselves back in the entrepreneurial community, giving back and creating new companies. So it's not black and white. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sarah Perry, Rudi Bublitz, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.